Good evening, good evening. Hopefully everybody is doing okay. It looks like we're going good on this end. Should have sound. Everything should be good to go. It's not going to be a long show today. I wasn't even 100% sure I was going to run one until like the last minute. So anyway, we're just going to hop into some conversation here. Now, we've had a lot of, I'm not going to go into details as it's not really something I wish to talk about, but this year's we've had a lot of issues, whether they be health or losses due to family relatives and animals and things like that. The title of the video for today's show is literally the biggest point of this. The biggest reason, and I've said this so many times, and people still think that that's not the truth for me, but for me, the biggest thing of doing reselling in general is the freedom that I have. Because I would no way have been able to be around and help to deal with a lot of the stuff that were going on had I been working for somebody else. It wouldn't have been possible. And I swear to everybody out there, I don't give pardon me, a shit if I'm a millionaire and all that kind of stuff. I want to be happy. I want to be able to use my time the way I want to use it. I worked for somebody for, 25, 30, well, 30 years of my life almost. And at one of the positions I was working at was 75, 80 hours a week. I didn't have any free time. I missed, my kids' first steps, their first words, all sorts of key events in the life of my family and stuff like that. And it doesn't happen when I'm a reseller. I do whatever I need to do, whenever I need to do it, to whatever extent I want to do it. Again, the freedom, I swear to you, the biggest aspect of this and why to me this is so much worth me putting in the hours that I do and the effort and just muddling through whatever goes on and just working around it and keep on going is for that freedom. And I honestly, sincerely, with all my heart, that's literally the reason why, to me, this is the most important job, the best job, the most fulfilling job, I should say, as well, too, because it allows me to fix my own time frame, my own separation of family and business time. So anything's going on, I'm able to just drop what I'm doing on the spur of a moment and, take care of whatever's going on. I don't care what the effort would be to get this type of, and I know there's going to be people out there saying this isn't a huge freedom because you got to rely on platforms. Well, you've got more than just one platform you can deal with and other things you can do. It's I don't feel tied down. I don't feel any of the pressures that I ever did working for somebody else. If I call in because something happened drastically awful in my family or something, what kind of vacation time would I have to use? What would they do to me? Would I only be allowed to take so many days off? And I ran places. So for me, I was a general manager. I couldn't just leave. I had liquor licenses, and some people under me didn't. That meant they couldn't. There's just all sorts of different aspects involved when you work for somebody else. Again, I can promise you that if again you're like me and you're so into what you really want, and I know what I want. I just want to be able to use my time, as I've said. You're going to find a way to make this work. It's not for everybody, but for me, and I can tell you without a doubt, this goes for family, close friends, any acquaintance. We were mocked and laughed at for reselling for the first, 15 or plus years of our life. You're never going to do anything. You're never going to do this. And in all honesty, I kept working for somebody else while I did reselling on the side because of statements like that. Because I just assumed everybody telling me this, there's no way I'm going to be able to make a living at this. That's the truth. I wasted 20 years of my life working for somebody for more hours than most people would ever want to work. 70 hours was like bare bones minimum most of the time as a regional or as a general manager in a busy store. You're making 6 digits. You're working for those 6 digits. You are working for them. You got to earn bonuses. I mean, it was a lot of work. And in all honesty, it wasn't worth it. I never had anything to show for it at the end of the day. I always have something to show for what I do here with reselling. And if I would have listened to people or blew them off, I guess I should have said, I wouldn't have listened to them. I shouldn't have. I would have been farther along and been in a little better spot, obviously. So again, I don't care what anybody else says anymore. Just like I get complaints now because I don't bitch about eBay or don't bitch about this a lot, which is shocking because I got complaints when I do it, and then I get complaints as many, believe it or not. Really kind of surprised that I don't, but I'm done with arguing or dealing with them. eBay and Etsy, they're all individual parts of my business. It's not one specific part's not going to kill it anymore. So if I shut down eBay, I wouldn't be dead in the water. That's the point. If I shut down Etsy or whatever option I want to do, I'm not dead in the water because it's my show. I run it. No one's going to tell me how I'm going to spend my time anymore. I'm not going to waste it dealing with stuff that I can't affect and that usually works itself out in so long. Again, this is the life that you lead if you're going to run it yourself. You pick what's most important to you. Right now it's advancing the business. Right now it's dealing with getting everything up and trying to figure new strategies, getting our Shopify and a bunch of other stuff going on. Got stuff we've written and things like that. So if you really, really, really value your freedom to enough to the extent to put in the extra effort like it's gonna take, this isn't easy. I don't care what all the other videos or anybody else says. There's a lot more to it. There's a way more to it than just finding something to grow it, to get it bigger, to get it enough where it's a full-time income and you can keep increasing the value of your business, because otherwise you might as well just work for somebody else. If you're never going to increase the amount of money you can bring in, even if it slows down, you still have to be able to get it bigger than it is, no matter what happens to the economy and stuff. You might as well work for somebody else because at least you'd get a raise. That's the aspect on that. Again, for me, it's the freedom. It's my time. I'm so sick of wasting time away from, in the past, working for other folks, time away from family and what was important to me. To me, the job was never important. I could have cared less. It meant nothing. I didn't get any thrill out of making sure a customer had their food in the proper order, the proper time, the proper cook and all. It didn't mean anything to me, to be honest with you. I never appreciated that job. I hated it. Every day I did it. But if you're the family man or you're the breadwinner for whoever you're supporting, even if it's just yourself, I needed more than that. I hated working for other people, especially in some of the retail places I've worked and the robberies and armed robberies even in stores I've been in, and there's just so much reason why this is worth the effort, I guess is the point. I know I'm kind of rambling and waxing, but that's literally how I feel. I could never express enough how thankful I am that I'm able to do this. Not necessarily the video aspect, just in general, the reselling aspect. Because, man, if you haven't worked a general manager or regional manager's position in a multi-million-dollar company, and again, my region made like 11.2 million in a year, and I had a bunch of stores. It wasn't like some rinky-dink, but that's peanuts to some of these. There's stores that make one single store that made that in some companies. So I'm not trying to make it like it's some huge thing, but if you haven't run a store, even a smaller store, to realize how hard you work and how little effort or how little you're getting back out of it at the end of the day, and to look at this, I say the more you work at this, the better you're going to do. Well, that's obvious how it is. The more you work at this, the more money you are going to make. Hopefully you're doing it the right way, and that's what's going on. But the more effort I put in, it's my effort. I'm getting every dime that I'm available out of this. Even if you're running a business in the brick and mortar or whatever, you've got overhead. You got to pay for the upkeep of the building you're in, or whatever the case, electricity, all that stuff's still there. It's the same thing if you're working as an online reseller and you're selling on eBay and Amazon and Etsy and all that. It's the same basic principle. It's just a service fee you're paying for them. And I'm going to say this again. I got a couple of really nasty ones. I was tempted to play them, but I don't have a problem with eBay's fees the way they are. Yes, I wish they were cheaper, but if the fees on eBay are too much for you, you're selling the wrong items. I don't care what anybody says. That's the facts of the matter. Because I don't have any secret abilities. I'm not psychic. I can't do anything like that. I'm able to find repeatable stuff all the time for years, and not just here, but all over the place. Everywhere I've gone, I've been able to source the same types of items. And if they're not worth something, I've swapped out. I stopped selling them and picked something else that's going to make me the most money. Leland Langford, well, thank you very kindly. Thank you very kindly. Well, very glad to hear. Very glad to hear for you two. Again, if you two, I'm going through emails. I'm behind because of what happened on Sunday at like 3 a.m. Um, so I'll probably get caught up, I hope, by the weekend at the very latest. I'm trying to do a few a day. Just I've got a lot that piled up. I usually only answer the Patreons specifically too. I did post about that. I get some days hundreds and hundreds of emails, especially if something's going on, and I can't answer all that. So people get mad at me for not responding to comments. In one day, I might have a couple hundred comments. I'd just be doing that all day and wouldn't even be able to do videos if I responded to everything. So again, I apologize, but there's just no way I can do it. I'm a reseller. Again, I use my time as I want to. But thank you. You don't have to do the super chats like that either. Very glad you sold it. But if you do need some help, you too, on some more keywords or anything else like that, and I did a story review on someone else who, if you are in-house right now, just let me know the same thing as well. Email me in Patreon, just FYI, through your system in there. To be honest with you, no one, not even my mom and every relative that I had, and I'm not going to talk for the wife because she's not present, but no one thought this was a real thing to me. Everybody thought this was a joke. It's just some fantasy. You're never going to be able to do anything it wasn't even, I don't even know if I even thought of it as reselling per se. I was a flea market and that kind of person. So for me, it wasn't like, I don't even think the term was used when we were originally doing this, if I'm not mistaken. I'd have to even look that up. I couldn't even tell you. But the point of it again is everybody told me it's not possible, and I still see people. There's probably more people quitting eBay right this second just because of all of those that dropped, that got into it with the pandemic and everything, right now are leaving eBay and reselling in general. Not necessarily just eBay, just resellers are quitting and going back to regular employment's up. Anybody who wants a job pretty much at this point should be able to get one the way we've seen in all the reports and, the job numbers and all. So, it is what it is, I guess, is the point. This has changed my world in so many different ways. If you want to be rich, you want to be a millionaire, probably doing something else would be far easier, to be honest with you. Yeah, I know a few people who are millionaires doing this. I think we've sold at this point over $1 million on eBay, if I'm not mistaken. I'd have to go back and look, but it's got to be close, well over $1 million if you count all of our things, way over $1 million, probably even a couple million. But the point being that, it doesn't mean you're a millionaire if you sell $1 million worth of product. And that shouldn't ever be your goal. My goal, again, is just to have the freedom and to be able to use my time. And when I have the free time, I want to be able to go out and do what I want to do. And, I don't have to have, $10 million in the bank to do that at all. And I know I hear this, but sometimes people with money get, a little, big head, and they go overboard, and they just aren't relatable at all in my book. And again, I'm not out for the money, and hopefully you're out more for the freedom if you're watching this, and the money is great. It's a bonus. It's a plus. Yeah, I'm glad to have it, but that's not my goal. I know if I keep working and doing this, I don't have to work for somebody else. Man, I would just cringe at the thought of having to go in as a manager somewhere or run something. I would hate it. I would hate it more so than anything I could think of. I just would loathe having to do it. I hated doing it when I did it for all those years. I was never totally into a managerial. One guy, Lou, was good, but the job was awful. Every manager job I've ever had, they beat the heck out of you. It's a lot of hours, and at the end of the day, when you look at your paycheck, you're looking at the bank, it's nothing. What I made in a month back then, I can make in a weekend doing this. A whole month, and I'm talking bonus, and I made 6 digits, but I never had anything to show for it. I had to do this, I had to do that. It was just... Anyway, I'm done rambling. Let's hop over and look at some comments and questions here. Again, thank you to Land Langford. Honestly and sincerely appreciate it. Cindy, if I'm not mistaken, I'm bad at names, so if I mess that up, I'm just in my head. Cindy, I want to say. Hey Mike, how you doing? Good to see you in the house. JDad303, welcome. Wiggy Q, welcome. David G, Mr. Loftus, hey Jeff, how you doing? Jeff, good to see you in house as well. Disgruntled Octopus. Again, I do love that name. I've got a bunch of emojis in a file that I haven't moved over yet. I got to do that. Every time I see your emoji, that's the first thing I think of. Nick, hey, Nicholas Tracy, welcome, welcome. Andy Robinson, welcome as well. Good evening. Dave, Midwest Picker, another YouTuber in house. Got snow. Yeah, we had snow. I was driving home from picking my son up at like midnight on the expressway, and it was coming down like so hard you could barely see the road. And anyway, we got a new vehicle for one of the kids, and I was just making sure everything worked. We put some stuff on it. Windshield, it was awful. One of the worst drives I've had in a few years. I could barely say. I had to go down to like 20. It was coming down. So we've got maybe an eighth of an inch on the ground, maybe. But yesterday, yeah, I did see you guys were getting snow. Yesterday, we got some, and then one other day. I think it's the third snow we've had this year. Not much on the ground, but enough to, get me changing all the windshield wiper blades. Matt Jake, how are you doing? Good evening, good evening. Alicia Arroyo? I'm sure I butchered it. I do apologize. I'm terrible with names, just to be honest. Hey, Michelle, how you doing? Good evening, good evening. Good to see you in house as well. Sandra Leak, welcome, welcome. Twisted, West Virginia. I've been through West Virginia. I think there's a natural bridge in West Virginia. My parents took us to an area out there. It's on, I don't remember the name of the river. Maybe Chester? I couldn't tell you, but I know it was in West Virginia that we saw some big natural bridge. Jackie Jack, welcome, welcome. Jackie Jack Enterprises. We stayed in Glen Burn. I stayed in Glen Burn while I was working for, Pilot? For like, 2 months. And there was a flea market in Glen Burn. And I was looking for, I don't even remember some movie, but I don't remember the name of the movie. And we were out there, and I've never seen so many bootleg, obvious video games, DVDs, CDs on tables than that place, with cops walking around not doing a thing about it. Not that I cared, because I did end up buying one, but it was just kind of odd in that area. Where are we at? Happy Thanksgiving, Biff. I might be on next week. My family doesn't do a lot for Thanksgiving anymore. Most of them have passed on these days. You get older and there's less family around, it seems, these days. Richard Johnson, how are you doing this evening? Good to see you in. Yeah, Richard says the same thing. I work probably more and am more focused on what my business is than any other thing I've ever done in my life to make money, in all honesty. I am totally focused on it. That's another thing. I wasn't into the restaurants. I wasn't into the places that I worked in the past. I made decent money for what I did, I guess. I don't know. Probably not. But, it was enough to pay the bills and take care of the wife and kids. And for me, I kept dredging on to a day in and day out, long hours, 12, 14-hour days, every day it seemed. For not. I got nothing really out of it at the end of the day. And, I said I could work that many hours for myself and at least have something to show for it. What that does to your mentality is a huge boost, in my personal opinion, because for me, it was like, wow, I'm not wasting my time anymore. First off, I don't have to drive an hour in traffic to get to work. I don't hardly go any place anymore these days, I don't have to. So, I don't have to spend 2 hours on the highway, 30 minutes in a normal day, and traffic usually sticks you out there for a long time. But I don't have to do any of that. I don't have to wear a tie anymore if I don't want to. There are days I put one on, but I don't have to do any of that. It's all my time. If I want to sleep in till 10 or whatever, I can do that if I so wish to. But you can't do it anywhere else. And I know with a lot of the real world jobs, in brick and mortar and stuff, you don't have any leeway in that. I never did. I worked every holiday. I worked Christmas. Unless the store was closed, I had to be there. Even if I was the general manager, it was all hands on deck with restaurants and holidays, because that's some of the busiest times of the year. We cooked pies when I worked at Cracker Barrel, pies and turkey dinners for entire families, so people would order hundreds of the pies. You were constantly everybody in the restaurant who had a free minute was mixing up pies in the back, pecan pies and stuff, and stuff like that. Apple pie was always good too, but There's never a free moment. I can take that free moment. I'm not worried about the holidays. I don't go out. I don't worry about that crap. I shop when I want to. I don't have to do anything that I don't want to do anymore, time-wise. Again, I don't care what anybody says. If I would have stopped listening to people 20 years ago, I wouldn't have had lots of stuff that I had to have dealt with in the past, lack of money for this or that, and it's just such a drastic difference. The more work you put in, the more you get back out of it as a reseller in my book. Once you've figured out pricing and what's the best thing to sell, and if it's not a good thing to sell what you're in now, you're able to switch it. You're able to pivot on a dime basically and change the direction of your business. If something works, go with it. If you're able to find this item over that item, one item might be a chore. Clothing to me is just a chore. I hated it. I don't like clothing shopping. I don't like, I'm not a fashion bug obviously at all. I don't care about all that. That's just to me it's a waste. I know it's not to a lot of people, and I'm not trying to mean that offensive, but to me it didn't do anything for me. All the clothing, whether it's a cool shirt, leather jacket, different story because I love leather jackets, but that's because I like them. I didn't want to sell most of them if they fit me, but clothing wise I could care less. And it's easy for me to miss stuff on them because I didn't care about them enough to be into it. So I personally like selling what I like. I don't buy everything out in the store. People, if I do a video on something and I'm out in like a thrift store, I had a thrift store video, I had a bunch of people say, well, you didn't pick up this, you didn't grab that, you didn't look at the clothing. I didn't want to look at the clothing. I don't care about the clothing. I could care less. It does nothing for me whatsoever. I think we even got rid of the mannequins. All I got is the one for doing a jacket. I had 3 or 4 different mannequins. I'm pretty sure we got rid of those even because I don't ever care to mess with clothing. It's a rat race to me. Again, there's people that make a lot of money doing clothing. Don't get me wrong, but for me around here, I'm never going to make a living be able to here doing clothing. I'd have to spend probably 40 hours a week just sourcing it, enough to even hopefully make enough to make a living on. Unlike what we sell nowadays, it's just like the money rolls in compared to clothing to me. And I don't care if it sits here because one bin of what I sell nowadays is thousands of listings, but clothing wise it may have been 40. It's such a big difference that there's again, I put the effort in, I put the time in. None of this was given to me. I didn't just instantly pick up a piece of paper and say, I know how to price everything. It's taken me years. I put the effort in. Again, that's why I'm saying the effort into it is it. There's going to be a learning curve for everybody out there that's doing this. And unless you're willing to put that extra effort into it, unless you see that it's worth your time, you're probably not going to be as efficient, as good at it. You'll give up easier. You want to get past the stumbling blocks, and I guess the biggest point is most people don't, because it's just more work than they think it's worth to them. What do you want out of this? What you got to think to yourself, what do you honestly want out of this? And I'm going to keep saying this because my time is all I want nowadays. It's all I care about. Just like I've got the Republic garbage service still issued. My time is what I want back from those people. It's what I told the state's attorney's office and all that. I want my time back. My time is what matters to me. It's why I do what I do. And hopefully the majority of you out there feel the same way. It's neat feeling having your own business, but that's beyond the point. The point is time. My time. Your time. I was so sick of giving it away to some other person who was just making me work harder so he could get a bigger bonus. And that's all it came down to everywhere I've worked. The district manager spot had a person over him, regional vice president, or whoever it may be in your company. So even if I was a regional manager, an RM or something, district manager, I had a boss, and he was paid on meeting all of his numbers. And if I didn't meet my numbers, and by me I mean all the stores under me, I'd have to dog on everybody under me. I'd have to go after them. I'd have to make sure that they were hitting their numbers. And if they weren't, I'd have to take action, write them up or terminate them after so long. And that meant I'd have to train. Then my numbers would be screwed because I'd have to pay for training hours. And to train a manager in a restaurant is 3 months. You're paying them not to be in that store. And if they only last a few months, you're screwed. You just blew half your budget for labor and training. But anyway, I know I'm rambling. If you run a business, you know what I'm talking about. And again, if you've never run a business, this is a lot of work. Even if you have, like me, it can be a lot of work. At least for me, and if you've run another business somewhere else, you got all the basics down. You hopefully understand how to read the numbers, what a P&L statement is, how to read where you're up and where you're down in your business, how to break your business down even by line to adjust and figure out which item niches, categories, or specifics you're selling give you the largest profit with the least amount of time investment into those items. I'd rather list, a lot of items for a little less of amount if I can, get total dollar value up again. $500 of merchandise per hour we want to get up. I'd rather list that than something else that's only $200 or $300 worth of value an hour. As long as the items are all on a comparable basis, they're all worth something, they're all worth listing. Always list stuff that's going to get you a higher value up on the platform. You'll approach higher numbers, it gives you more opportunities. Quicker is better as long as the quality is still there. So we've given up so much stuff that I don't mess with anymore because it's too easy with what we're doing. I'm working smarter, not harder these days. I know I don't have to go out at all for weeks if I don't have to or if I don't want to, unless somebody calls and it's something really cool. Maybe I want to check it out or, so again, I've cut out anything I can, any aspect, any avenue that I can cut out to speed up my business, to increase the amount of value I can get up by per hour is what I'm going to do. Again, this is all effort you're going to have to put in. You're going to have to figure out what works for you because what I sell may not work for somebody else. I know it works for some. Some people can't find stuff that I sell. I can tell you it's pretty much everywhere, but, your skill set is not the same as mine. I've been doing this for almost 30 years or so in general, antiques, collectibles and stuff. Flea markets when I was like 18 or 19. That's been a long little while ago, but let me stop rambling and let's go back to the feed over here. Mr. Johnson's comment got that one going. Sorry, I'm not going to blame that on you, Richard. Northern New Hampshire. I've been up through. We went through Concord, New Hampshire before. In fact, we went to. We went through Connecticut. We were up in Gloucester area. We stayed in Boston, and we stayed at the House of Seven Gables for 2 whole nights. It was a bed and breakfast. I don't know if it still is anymore, but I love that area up there. It was just awesome, just very, very beautiful. We were up there, the flower fields and pastures of flowers for miles, driving down the highway and big boulder. It was really neat. I have to say that was a great experience up in there in New England area. Where are we at? Darlene Carpenter, welcome. Well, glad to have you in. Hopefully you enjoy it. I got like 2,000 videos, I want to say, at this point. I don't even know how long I've been doing videos anymore. It's over 4 years, I want to say, something like that. Jake Timms, how are you doing? Well, thank you very kindly. 1987 Ventures, Tracy, welcome. Wiggy Q is in Florida, and lowest was 55. I lived in Florida for a while, for 10 plus years. I don't miss it anymore these days. It was just always hot, and I guess I'm older, and I don't really care about the beach. I used to go to I lived in Flagler, right there on the water. Like, I could walk to the beach in like 2 minutes. I mean, it was 2 streets over. But anyway, I was like 7 streets from the pier, if you know where that is, the main pier that runs towards Orlando. The road at the pier, I guess I should say. Julie Christ John Breckley, welcome, New Jersey. You're still mocked. Some people do. Most of the people have since shut up a few years back. Everybody else posts images of stuff that I don't post dinner photos. I don't like to post images when we buy something or anything. I never like to brag in our private Facebook or anything else like that. And we posted a picture for the first new car we had bought in, I think, our entire life, and not a word, not a peep. And I'm like, and it was all paid for through eBay. So I was proud of it. I earned every dime of that. I mean, I fought for it, and it's a nice vehicle. And anyway, it was like they just snubbed us because of, I don't know, jealousy or what. But usually we're making more than the people that have been at those industries for, or at their job for a very long time. Yeah, I'm not trying to, it's not meant as a brag, but I don't give a hoot how much somebody makes. That means nothing to the value of a person. And we're still looked down on by some in family and here and there. But, for the most part, most of them have just don't pay. They just try to ignore it. Like, we're not here sometimes. At least the naysayers who used to mock and say, because what are they going to say now? I guess is the point. We worked hard at it. I've earned every dime that we have. I've never slacked off on what we do here. Never, because it's us. It's always provided for everything we need. Again, I am honestly, sincerely thankful for this life that I get to lead. And to somebody else, this is nothing. This is a joke what I have, and I don't care what they think. Again, I don't care what other people say about it. For me, this is what I wanted. I don't care. I'd be fine being Fred Sanford. He had a good family, and he liked these old junk laying around and stuff like that. Who cares if they're happy? It's clean and they're happy with it. Who cares? I don't. I don't care about what having a $100,000 car or a $1 million house. I don't care. What would I do with $1 million? I wouldn't know what to put in all that space. I wouldn't know. I don't. There's only so much that I need. I don't need all that extra junk. We had the options to get a bunch of junk in the car, and I don't want auto gate and stuff. For me, who cares about the extra? I'm capable of closing the back tailgate on our vehicle. It was stupid stuff like that. I think we do have heated seats, but I think they were like included in the model we got. It wasn't like I picked it, but that's the only other thing that I thought was neat. And we got the side backups and the backup built-in camera system. Anyway, I know I'm just rambling around again. Julie Green, welcome, welcome. Julie, I'm telling you, we had nothing. We had literally nothing when we started, other than, a few boxes of junk that we had saved up, some old toys and stuff. That's all I started with. We were literally down to like almost nothing, and we had no bank account at that point. I graduated college, so we'd spent every thing just getting through college. We'd owed, and we started selling a few things. We did everything we could. I picked up odd jobs. I did some construction and some very dangerous jobs in 3-story buildings that I would have rather not do. But I did anything I could. I drew a lot of stuff. I made some things. I did postcards. I did ACEO cards. I did tons of them. I would draw all day long when I first started, and we sold some. In fact, I found some pictures of some of the ones we did. Whatever was hot, I would draw. They were one-off drawings. That's what I did for a while. I did portraits for a while. Then I figured out on selling military, and I would buy and sell with the money I made from that. I just I never spent the money. We lived cheaply as humanly possible. Ramen noodles for us and good food for the kids. This is the truth. I don't, this is what we had to go through to get right here. That's why I'm very thankful for all this. Even though it was a 15 plus year climb to get here, it was worth it in the end, I guess. I guess that's the point. But I did anything it took. If I sold a picture here, a drawing there, I painted Christmas card for somebody, whatever, I don't care. You advertise on Craigslist if you have to. You reach out. There's sites I've talked about it in Patreon that you can make money by your artwork and this and that. I'd write for people even. Whatever I could do, I did. And again, it wasn't a lot of money. It was just enough to barely get by. We lived from bill to bill. I mean, because I didn't really have a full-fledged paycheck for a while. I mean, we were just doing whatever we could. There was no jobs when I got out of college, and everything was pretty much burnt down to the ground, so to speak. And we had kids, so you do what you got to do. Yeah, if you're single, it might be a lot harder too, and I fully agree. There's a lot of people who understand what I'm saying, and they feel the same thing. That's why I get a lot of single moms and dads out there, and people just trying to make it from point A to point B and still be able to feed yourself and your kids, and that does happen. I did everything I could. I didn't care about my time. If it meant I worked 21 hours a day, 22 hours a day, that's what I did when I first started. I mean, I know I've got ADHD and some other issues, but I wasn't going to let the family fail where We were out in the street. Again, I know what happens to people, and I know there's situations where there's nothing you can do. I was lucky enough that I had something I could do, and we did it. I've done artwork since I was like 7, so for me it wasn't. I still like it. I just vision-wise can't do much anymore, unfortunately. Sad to say, but anyway, I know I'm rambling still. Yeah, we're not going to be on super long. You've been doing it for over 15 years. I can tell you the other thing. Let's talk about this. I'm not going to make this a dog on video for anything at all. But I assumed maybe I could get going. Again, I didn't assume you could make a full-time living reselling. And we started off with clothing, books, just like everybody else. It was the low-lying fruit, and there was a lot of it. It just wasn't really super high pricey. And we did that for a while, and we never were able to get over a hump. It was always, there was just never enough of the best stuff out there, or the stuff would sit longer than we anticipated. We'd mess up on buying, there was an issue. And then the time it took us to list it, you got to turn stuff inside out, and measurements, and all that stuff, because you don't want the return. If you're getting returns, you're just blowing your profits, and all that kind of stuff. So you've got to do so much extra work, and time, and effort. When we gave up clothing, and again, there's still money to be made in clothing, don't get me wrong, but for us, there wasn't. There's so many cons. I did the pros and cons like I do for everything. There was just so many. The con list was like this, and then the pros was like this little tiny segment, like two lines of statements, and that was it. And it made no sense to continue with it. Here, if you live somewhere else, the clothing may be different, but when I gave that up, our whole prospects changed. Because we moved from the long investment in time items, clothing, longest investment in time is clothing for us, to items that first with records, because it was a lot less 2, 4, 5 photos, and then we dropped down to paper and the smalls, because again, they were so much easier to get. They're so much cheaper to buy. They're so much easier to photo, to scan, and to store, as well as to ship. So we eliminated like half of our entire business time is just gone. I don't have it. I'm doing probably half or less as much investment in time to acquire, list, ship the items as most everybody out there selling the same amount of items, I would say. Just, like clothing and stuff. There's more steps, there's more time. I can scan 100 cards in like a minute, and I can list 55, 60 or so in an hour. If I'm just sitting there, not everything's zoomed out, I don't have to do anything, just with that. And that includes the time to scan, that 1 minute at scan time. And clothing wise, man, you're talking an hour and a half, and then 2 hours of list time, and you only got a couple handfuls of things up. Again, I don't know what everybody sells. I'm just giving you what our logic was and why we stopped selling clothing. Why did I stop selling books? I get that question all the time. I didn't stop selling books technically. I just don't scan them anymore. When when Amazon raised the FBA fees, this is like the third increase ago, fourth, maybe even 4 since then, they've increased again. They increased the FBA storage fees, and they drastically increased them. And what was bread and butter back then, I had a little thing that attached to the bottom of the phone. I don't remember. It's probably even still laying around here somewhere. But I could go into a store, and I didn't need internet. I just downloaded the database of the files onto that, and I could go into a store, and it would just beep. And not earphone, I'd have my earplug in. But so I just buy stuff that I knew I was going to make at least $4 on. And it was tons of stuff. And who cared about, it was only $4. They would just constantly sell. They were all top movers. They were all in a certain level. They were in the top, 2,000, 5,000, whatever the case may be at that point in time. And they would just sell. You'd sell so many. Who cares that back then that they were $4? I didn't have to ship them. I didn't have to worry about sorting or fulfilling the order. It was all done FBA, fulfilled by Amazon. So it was all done by them. So it was just $4 of pure profit for me just to load them into a box, stop by Office Depot or whoever at that point had the big, thick boxes, and dump them in a box, scan them in with the little handheld scanner I got over there, and boom, I'm off. I just drop them off. I could even have dropped them off, which we've done when we were on the road before, and I never even had to take the items home. So, I mean, there's a lot of ways to do stuff. Speeding up and stuff. But with the bread and butter, with the books, once the fees went up to a certain point, it was like 50 cents or $1 profit, and it just wasn't worth it anymore. Because we had to sell 4 times, 5 times, 10 times as many to make the amount we were making before they raised the fees twice on us. And we said, nope, no more. And that was the end of it. I know there's a lot of people who came to that same conclusion, just like we did. Amazon's great on some things, don't get me wrong, but the FBA books, unless they're really good books and quick movers, you're going to sit on a lot of books. And you're going to have a lot of storage fees because everybody else is storing the same books. You know, and are you going to get the buy box? I don't know. You know, who knows? I'm still the highest rated you can in the performance tab, and you know how they changed it. If you're on Amazon, you know what I mean. You've got to do the drop downs and go to health and then health and down. But anyway, I don't like the new setup on Amazon, the back of the house, seller central, I guess you'd call it. Not a big fan of it, but anyway, let's pop down and get some questions. I know I ramble way too much some days. The mad scientist, even if the platform die, I still have my 100,000 in inventory. I always be a seller. There you go, the mad scientist. Again, if you're selling and you've got multi revenue streams, many different revenue streams, if one of them dies, you just put the effort and the time you were investing into that one into something else. It's not a total loss. Even if you can't recoup the entire amount from the site, you can recoup a large chunk. And again, as the mad scientist says there, you still have the inventory. You know, if you want to run it on your own and just get your own platform, that's a doable thing. You'll have to pay to advertise, though. So again, it's going to be investment some way, time, money, energy, whatever the case may be. Let's pop on down. Hey, Black Crystal Dice, how are you guys doing? Dan, I was thinking of going to an auction school to have my own auction company. Just thinking. I don't know where you're at, but like here, you've got to have a license. You have to, what's it called? Apprenticeship under another auctioneer for like a year, and you've got to take so many. I mean, it's a long, drawn out process to get the license to do it. Way around it here in this state. I'm not like it wouldn't be violating a law, but a way around it though would be to sell your own merchandise. If you're running an auction and you own everything in it, you can auction it off all you want without a license. But if you're going to auction off for other people, like in an auction house format, you have to go through the entire process. There is actually a school that you will have to go to, chances are, in my state anyway, and in many other states as well. I've looked into that before. When auctions were a thing, I actually thought about the exact same thing. We're working on something else right now, though. We do a lot of other things. That's why I say if you have your hands in a bunch of baskets, instead of just having everything lumped into one revenue stream, one basket, you'll be far better off. Because I can afford to, invest time into trying stuff out. I've got many revenue streams that constantly produce revenue for us. And a lot of it's passive income, probably 75-80% is passive income. Just because once it's up, it's done. I don't have anything else into it. It's all just free. And we've listed 2 years ago, 5 years ago, some of the stuff. 8 years ago, some of the stuff that's still in our store now is listed. And they sell all the time. I don't care how long it's been up. The point for us is to build inventory and get as much up. Again, because we get routine sales. My daily sales is what matters. I could care less how many items I sell. I'm looking at a number. Who cares how many items you sell? I wish people would stop thinking about that. Pay attention to how much value you're making. How much am I making? $800 a day or $1,000 a day or whatever. If that's what's coming in, who cares how many items? Even if it's 200 for you, whatever your number is, who cares how many items you're selling? It doesn't matter. So I always got to think, when people show the photos, and I've shown some just to talk about, the aspect like this, but who cares how many items you mail out? You may only make 99 cents on any item you're mailing out. It doesn't impress me. The numbers impress me. Selling something and not making profit is a doable thing for a lot of people. There's a lot of people who sell things and aren't making a profit off of them. Again, who cares how much you're selling, how much items you're selling, the quantity items. Doesn't matter. I'm starting a flea market so I don't have to go to them. Then they come to me. Yeah, when I did flea markets, that is something that, Cindy, I'm sorry. Yeah, I should have. Leland, I'm just now getting to your thing down there, but sorry. I'm starting a flea market. Yeah, I thought about stuff like that too, like an antique mall around here. the person, I'm not calling out any names because I've talked to him on the phone and stuff before, but like a big, huge antique mall. If you run a big antique mall, the people who own the mall are making money before a single solitary thing is sold if it's a good area and you've got a lot of vendors who are paying their monthly fees. That's where you make the money. You already got all your money and a profit the minute you run something like that, as long as you get the people to come in there. You'll have to pay and use some of the money advertise and on and on and on. I've looked into all that. We used to do business, a lot of money through Webster's in Florida, the Webster's flea market, on the Monday morning flea market. I used to be out there for years and stuff. And anyway, hey Marty, how you doing? Jiminy Flippin' in house. Welcome, welcome. Another fellow YouTuber. And right below we've got Daryl, Carolina Picks. How you doing, Daryl? Hopefully you're doing well. Well, thank you, the mad scientist. Appreciate the comments. Here's Twisted. Twisted's making another point, and yes, this is what I'm going to read you. What Twisted has here is 100% true for at least the first few years in any business you're running. You will work twice as hard to work for yourself than to work for someone, but working for yourself is more rewarding in the long run. When you first start a business, I don't care if you're working for somebody else. If you open a new store for somebody, for some other company, you're the training guy, you come in, you open a store, and then somebody else takes it over, and then you move on to the next store to open up. That's a position in most companies. It's a lot of work. Everybody working in the store works. It's all hands on deck and everything. It's a hectic, fast pace, 50, 60 hours for even regular employees, overtime and all that stuff. And the first few years with reselling or a business like that are like that. These days I can slack off a lot more if I want to. I don't want to because, what I put in, I get back out of it. You can instantly see the rewards for your work that same day. You can get paid daily on some of the... I can get money immediately on things that I deal with. Right now, anytime if I want to throw something out there. I can do it through PayPal because they give you free listing abilities to drop links from PayPal. And I'm a big fan of PayPal, and I like a lot of the features they have. I know another sideline, but that's truthful. That's a truthful statement on PayPal. They do a lot of good things, and they've saved my butt many different times. But that's a good statement, though, Twisted. That's true. I've done far more work working for myself than anything else. But as I said, the rewards are just, man, I wished there was a way to go back in time and not listen to all the other idiots who tell me I can't make a living doing this. There's no way. This is quack pottery. Antique dealers don't make money. You're not going to make money. And on the internet, people would laugh and make fun and mock and ridicule. We had people didn't even want to come over anymore because of what we did, and they thought it was below their level of, who would go to a thrift store, But, if that's how they weren't our friends in the first place, so who cares? Bye-bye. That's what I say. So I don't judge somebody by stuff like that. My friends have been good friends, and they would give me the back off their shirt as I would do for them. They've earned my respect. One person I don't talk to anywhere near as much as I wish, but somebody I grew up with, and he's one guy, and he's high-ranking law enforcement here. He's like second in command, and he would do anything for you back in the day. He's the most honest person I ever knew. Those are the type of people that I like, and I still respect people like that. My father was that way, so I guess that might have something to do with it. But you gotta have respect for yourself and people in general. I just wish more people would think that way. It's sad, unfortunately, but Biff Bofo. I was an executive chef as exec before the pandemic. I know the misery of the hospitality business. The higher you get up, the less it is about cooking and more it is about scheduling and inventory. Yeah, and changing things. If you work in a restaurant, the menus change 4 times a year, 5 times a year, maybe even more than that. And you've got to roll out, you've got to get orders, quantities, and there's a lot. You got to just know how to cook the stuff. We used to have classes. I'd set up the rollout menu for my region, and we'd cook the menu ourselves in our store until everybody knew it, and then we'd have to show every other store how to do it. It's a huge process, just that simple act of cooking or changing the menu out. Just that one simple process. And as an executive chef, they've got to figure out all that stuff too, not knowing what type of chef or area, type of restaurant, I guess I should say. But I worked in fine dining, casual dining, fast food back in the day when I was younger and stuff. But it's all a rat race. That's all a rat race. This is totally different. People can't believe, the results from this. People can't believe that I can do what I do and get the money that I get. The people around here, the people that I personally know, it's astonishing to them, I guess, is the point. Because again, no one thinks you can do this. No one believes it. There's obviously only a set amount of people that this would work for, I guess, to some extent. But well, thank you, Pat D's. Appreciate that. Thank you, RD Sales. Hey, Linda, how are you doing? Linda, good to see you in house as well. Oh, see, we've got some. Hang on one second there. My feed's jumped all over the place. We always get a few haters or scam or adult entertainment sites, I guess I should say, in here, it seems. Hang on, where are we at? Nevermore Sales. You mentioned Shopify. Is it a viable sales site if you don't have many followers from other sources? Have you been debating branching out onto that platform? We've had Shopify opened on like a year or two ago, but we ran into some things with special needs and things. They weren't. What's the? I can't remember the acronym. They weren't legally set up to handle certain things that could have got you in trouble up until a certain point. As well as we actually ran out of time. What sunk us with the Shopify was the end in sell similar, to be honest with you. That's the issue. And Dave, $1 Million Peddlers, Dave and Chuck, he gave me a name, and I honestly haven't had much chance to, with everything else going on, to get back into it. But if you sync your items, which Dave's got set up from, again, $1 Million Peddlers over there, you can sync it by a custom SKU. Now we've got something else. We've been back and forth. We had some health issues with one of my kids, and as well as me, and between that and the loss of our other animal, I just haven't got back into it. There's just so much going on these days. It's a viable platform. If you're selling on other platforms now, you've got a good in. For us, the biggest bonus with like Shopify is that I've got repeat business, and a lot of repeat business. Every single day of the week, a customer comes back and buys a second, third, fourth, every single day. And I've been tracking this. Every single day of the week, someone's buying more than one item at the very same time as well. So I've got again, we've done, this is 15 years in. It's not like I just flipped, I just started and all of a sudden I got all this crap coming in. This has taken us a lifetime for some people. So I've got a huge clientele base, and they keep coming back because I have I don't know, 500,000 of several different collectibles still to list. So I always have good new inventory. So they're always going to, if I go somewhere, they're going to follow. That's the plus that I have. It has nothing whatsoever, in my mind, opinion, numbers, or anything to do with being on YouTube. Because I don't even give out my store name for the most part. It's in videos. I don't hide it. I'm not trying to hide it. My customer base is not YouTube people wanting to know how to do stuff. So again, I try to distinguish the two so that I'm not a marketer. I'm terrible at marketing to people, like stuff that I wouldn't buy. I love the collectibles, so I would push those, but I'm not trying to get people to buy my crap, is the point. And so the customer base that I would be able to bring would be from strictly repeat customers, niche collectors. All the stuff almost all of my stuff nowadays is niches in the store I share. It's all niches that we've just kept centering in on and building up the base and building up the base and building up the base. I couldn't do any of this with clothing, any of this with books, because I could never get exact clothing that this specific person wanted week after week after week. But a collector buys every single week if they've got the money. And most people who buy the stuff that we sell on top of it, it's all expendable income. They have extra money all the time. Not just extra money, but expendable. They can just throw away if they really wanted to. And that's the build up, from my opinion, with Shopify. The other plus with Shopify is you can list it on Google for free. all linked out there, all across Google. You don't have to do end and sell similar. And you can do the same items that you've got up on eBay, on Shopify, in through Google. You'll get better placement through Shopify than you would through eBay. And if you're doing end and sell similar, you're losing the Google high ranking ability right off the bat if you're ending and selling similar every 30 days. eBay has put us in this little bind here with the way they're trying to do the structure to gain revenue for the company. The item specific is based on revenue ability to bill us for the keyword searches for the promoted listings. That's why that's there. I get it. They got to get the revenue, whatever. Fine, But you don't have to use it if you don't want to. I don't use it. I haven't used it in like 3 years, and I'm not crying about it. I don't care if I'm using it. I haven't messed with it. But that's the point of this, is to get us to use specific items, keywords. That's what those words are there for. So you pay for this. Somebody's looking for, in a search result, comic book, Iron Man 1 or whatever. Your keyword has it in there. You can promote it by paying for those, for Iron Man and comic or whatever you're looking for, and do it by keyword basis. That's how Amazon does it a lot. If you're targeting advertisements on Amazon, there's nothing wrong with doing that. But if you're going to do, in my book, advertisements, you can't do end and sell similar at all, because they're not going to be static listings anymore. They're going to be constantly refreshed, which is necessary in some means. So we're between a rock and a hard place to some extent. So Shopify would avoid some of that issues, because you wouldn't have to deal with the end and sell similar. You'd have to deal with the sync. That's again why we're looking into this other one where they say, I got to see it before I'm going to trust it, but they say they can sync my items across multiple platforms via Shopify. It's a third-party app that would connect my eBay to Shopify, and then from Shopify I'd have to pay for the Amazon link and that kind of crap. But it would be perfectly doable, no big deal, as long as it syncs by the title. That's the only issue the reason why we haven't been on Shopify for the last 2 years fully. I still have a Shopify store. It's just not open to the public. Now, the other aspect about Shopify, you don't have to open up a store on Shopify to use Shopify. What people use Shopify for is basically an invisible landing pad. So you export your items from eBay to Shopify and then broadcast them out to whichever platforms you have hooked up on there. But you don't have to have a store. You just use it to sync your inventory. It's cheap enough to do that if you don't want to mess with the site. Or you can open up a site and only have certain types of items on there and sync everything else off across all platforms through Shopify and just not show it in your Shopify. Let's say you sell 20 different niches, but you just want to have a Shopify for just a handful of niches. You can do that. Or you can just have no Shopify and still have the account and just use it for your syncing. The whole point of Shopify in my book, the biggest point, is, again, the Google, and you don't have to worry about end and sell similar, and it syncs up your items in real time, or darn close to real time, within a few moments, which is fine. The chances of selling something in the 4-minute leeway time, which we've rated at best, is very, very slim and almost nil. But hopefully that answers it a little bit there. Nevermore Sales. Mad Scientist. Horse trader or junker was the old term. Yeah, junker was a term back in the day. I don't think I've heard horse trader, but I wouldn't doubt it at all. I'm sure that's probably one too. But anyway, if you're enjoying the conversation, please slam the thumbs up. I got 194 people in house and 89 thumbs up at this point. Show some love if you're enjoying the conversation. D9 everything. Think about it. You just have to be able to make as much as you're making now with your 9 to 5 to get out of that rat race. Yeah, and for a lot of people that could take years to do. Perfect example. That's true. That's definitely true. I would never quit something if I wasn't making enough doing something else already or had the position. I just wouldn't do it. It's just not something for me to do. I'm just not me. I do this for freedom and self-reliance, definitely. Mad Scientist. Twisted Entrepreneurs don't work for money. Yeah, I don't know how many times I've had people just tell me I'm just bullshitting because I want people to give me the money for views or whatever. You don't make a ton of view-wise. If people saw the amount you actually made for the amount of work you put into it, it's not very much. There's more to it. You can get some sidelines and stuff, but I'm not into the marketing. I like talking about what I do. To me, this is like the meetings that I used to run in all the places I've worked as a regional or a general manager. I just get to do it still. I always liked talking about business. I have to say it's always been me. Always been me. Well, thank you very kindly for the 4.99 super chat. Shantanu Singh, well, thank you very, very, very kindly. Greatly appreciated. I never know how to turn that back around. There we go. I'm sorry. Let's see here. Darlene Carpenter, what does the wrench mean? That means that they have a moderator on my channel. That means they're people that I know and have talked to, or they've been around and with contact with me for quite some time. I gave out a few new ones not too long ago, actually. Probably on the next live, if my brain's back in the right spot, I'll go from there. We are looking for another rescue dog right now, so if anybody knows small, I'd love to find another Chihuahua, but if anybody knows of a small female Chihuahua or something along that line, young one, I don't want to. Oh man, it's just sad looking for dogs at the rescue. I hate to say it. There's some adorable dogs, but they're seniors, and I don't think I could go through losing a dog after I got attached to it that quickly. They were just adorable dogs, and it's a shame. I couldn't do it. It's rough losing your little shadow there, but anyway. Let's see, where are we at? Thank you, Kelly. Appreciate that. D9 everything and get it an investment, as Twisted is saying. I don't mess with investments, honestly, too much. Monica Nelson, welcome, North Carolina. Sandra Leak, New York. I've been through New York. Been to a flea market in downtown somewhere. It was on a street. Never seen one like that. These giant buildings and flea market stuff all over the street. It's really cool, I have to say. Hey, Amazon Seller 99, welcome, welcome. Yeah, I don't mess around with investment opportunities too much. I mean, I'd rather buy collectibles as an investment than anything else, truthfully. Silver and gold I like and stuff like that. But I'm not. We've got some stock. Don't get me wrong, but it's more stuff from, family members who work there and stuff like that. My son's working for First Solar these days, and I'd probably invest in them, if the opportunity. I think he is, if I'm not mistaken, but. They just became the United States' largest solar producer in the country, which I thought was really neat. Jonathan Britton. I know exactly which one you're talking about. You can put it on Craigslist or something, would be my personal opinion on that, if it was me, or Facebook Marketplace. I just don't mess with stuff like that anymore. I mean, for me, it's history. I'm not looking to, it's an older item. It's a collectible. If you collect McCoy, it's a piece you'd want in your collection. I'm not saying it's the best item. I just don't buy that stuff anymore, regardless of whether it's history or not. I try not to mess with anything that would be considered offensive to somebody. Again, just because it's not worth any risk as well to your business these days and stuff like that. It's like the jarts, the lawn dart things. Somebody was selling one the other day, and I'm like, geez. I said no one's gonna buy it because you can't sell it online anywhere anymore. Twisted. I'm over in the tri-state area, Maryland, Virginia, West Virginia, and the Eastern Pan. I know where you're talking about. We've been all through. I worked in Alexandria, Virginia, through 9/11 and through the sniper shootings and stuff up there. And my region, I handled Washington, Virginia, and Maryland. I did all, like, the whole Beltway. I went through Laurel and all that area up there. We went all the way down to Fredericksburg. I did D.C. I did Annapolis in Maryland. I did the Naval Academy, which was really probably one of my favorite rounds. But anyway. I liked the area to some extent. I didn't like the traffic. I hated it. If I was just a tourist and didn't have to deal with traffic, it might have been okay, but I could never have lived there any longer than we did, just because of the traffic and 9/11 kind of killed it, I guess, between that and the sniper shooting. I went into that. We had white vans, and my guys were stopped constantly, and the combat helicopters and military vehicles driving the roads after. It was a bad experience, especially with a small newborn and another a toddler at the time. It just wasn't any fun. Pecan pie is what we did. I don't remember if we did pumpkin back then. We probably did too. I don't remember. I know I always mess with the pecan pie because it was just I could do it in my sleep. I like the apple ones though. I'm not a big fan of pecan or pumpkin spice at all. I can't stand it honestly. It's just not. I don't even like to smell it. It turns my stomach. Just something about it. I love the pumpkins, jack-o'-lanterns and stuff, but here's a mad science. I realized if I worked 9 to 5, I would probably make similar money. But if I got fired, I'd have nothing. And if eBay ended, I'd have all my inventory still and still have a business. There you go. Yeah, I mean, too many people don't think. Okay, let's change that for a second. The point when I started to do this, the day I said, well, look, let's just see what we can do with this. I wasn't thinking about that day or the next week. I was thinking about the longevity of it from the start. Is this going to be viable? And once it was, I figured out, yeah, we can make this work, I think. Then it was all about, in 5 years, where we're going to be. And as we kept doing it and kept doing it and kept working at it, we made more money. The profits kept going up. The expenses kept going down. I mean, little by little, it took a while. We switched an item here, we switched out an item there, we stopped buying this because we kept losing, or it just turned out that it was flooded, or, I just wasn't good enough in that niche. I didn't get all the little intricacies about that, or I bought the wrong. It was just a lot of other little stuff. And after we spent years messing around and tweaking that down, it just got so much easier. It was just like night and day comparatively from the day we started to even 3 years in. I think at the 3-year point, everything just started to snowball, and it just started to grow on its own. It was almost like an autopilot for a little while. Again, we had to constantly work it every day of the week and all that stuff. If you want to make more and do more doing this, it's time. If I need more money, I list more items. Every time. If we need to do something, we want to go on vacation. Usually when we go on vacation, I list a whole bunch of items ahead of time. Hopefully sell a bunch more. So if we do decide we want to have employees or not have employees, we can just make the decision. Sometimes these days I just turn it off sometimes and not worry about it, because then again I don't have any concerns then. It feels like more of a vacation when I just shut it all off and not have to worry about it. Some stuff I can do ahead of time. I know you've got the vacation setting. We've done that too. Usually I'll just shut the store off for 2 days, and 2 days before we come back, it's usually the weekend, and I'll have it turned on, so then I still have the same my 2 days over the weekend where I don't have to worry about shipping. So anyway, if you stagger everything right, you can weasel that all in there too. Chocolate silk sounds more appealing, yes. Amanda Bjorling. I get very easily discouraged, Amanda, every time I get scammed on eBay and don't want to list. Just went back to Walmart and had no clue I was going to be paid so little. Well, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm older than probably a bunch of people. I'm in my 50s. I couldn't do the retail anymore. Again, I'm not trying to criticize anybody, but man, I've done it for 20 years of my life, and it was just, I mean, I honestly would probably cut off my toe or shoot myself in the foot not to have to do it again. I just the whole atmosphere, because it doesn't do anything for me. I get absolutely no good feelings out of helping somebody find a product on a shelf in a convenience store, grocery store, whatever else. I don't get any thrill out of it. I don't get anything that makes me feel like I accomplished a single thing, because anybody could have done that at all. You're nothing special. Again, I'm not trying to pick. I don't want it at all to sound like that. It wasn't fulfilling at all. It's not a fulfilling job. Even as a regional, I didn't get anything out of it except the paycheck. That's the only part of it that I appreciated. And that's why I worked hard at what I did. I hated it. I hated all that. This one I don't hate. There's no I'm not discouraged by it anymore, only because, again, I've done it for so long. It's taken a while to get this. When I first started, it was easy to get discouraged. I get that. And these days, if you're just getting into this, it can be extremely discouraging, especially when everybody's telling you how easy it is if you look at a bunch of videos. And it's just not easy. But if for me, again, I'd work 20 hours a day if it meant the only way I could keep doing this. If it meant I had to do 20 hours a day, I would have to do that because I couldn't go in somewhere else. Again, I'm not saying anybody else should do what I'm saying. I'm not saying it's healthy, and I'm totally ADHD and OCD. I've got a bunch of issues, I know, so I can't stop something when I get into it. But for me, that's my driving factor. I know that it's my efforts are going into it. I'm going to get my money back out of it and not have to worry about somebody else. I just couldn't. I can't go back to another job again. I'll do anything it takes that's legal. I'm not trying to do anything bad. But anyway. For some folks, it may be the lesser of two evils, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. What I did is I did a full-time job working for somebody else as much as I hated it for years and did this on the side. So even if you go to, say, Walmart, you can at least supplement it doing this still. So it's not a wash, and things may change. You find some other new way to do something. So don't give up on the aspect of doing this. Just you need money, you need money. Again, I would obviously take a job if I had to pay and nothing else was working, because there's no way I'd let my family down. It's not in me to do it. Again, I'm not criticizing anybody for whatever they feel is just or right or whatever they need to do or don't need to do. That's your own call. But for me, that's how I feel. I've done everything. I've worked for people for so long and had nothing to show for it. I mean, that does it. That's the worst, I would say. Tapic, I agree. Clothing is a chore, and I love clothing. It's probably the most I sell, and yet the most I put on the back burner. Yeah, it's a chore, and if I don't like listing it, or I don't like the item, I don't like listing it, I don't get a thrill out of it. Even if the postcard or a piece of paper I'm listing isn't I guess the best, most attractive piece, I at least enjoy it for historical or artistic wise or some other quality. So for me, I get something out of everything I do. And when I look at, well, I only paid 2 cents for that and I just sold it for $15, that's pretty darn good. And again, I'm not looking to make a fortune in every item. I can list a ton of a certain item, so that's what I list. I've simplified everything I can, so I'm working less. I'm using my brain more and my muscles less, I guess you'd say. I'm not having to do as much work, but I'm getting more money out of it. Again, it's something that's going to take time to figure that out. When we first started, it was just whatever we get goes up, and hopefully we're making some money off of it. We looked it up. It should be good. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. It was pot luck. But these days, it's I could pretty much set my clock to daily sales numbers, to all that kind of stuff. I know what I'm going to make almost, before it comes in, just because it's a set number. We hit some point where, I got enough up, I got enough good items, I got enough people that, routinely come back, and that's the key. The biggest plus too, as I said, is that repeat business. Because who cares if the new person doesn't always see it? If you're not being shown as much. Once you got a customer base, because you're selling what they want, niches, collectibles are usually the best for me anyway. They make your business. They pretty much make me have routine sales every week, every month. It's a constant routine for us. I could do a video every day showing multi-item sales and repeat business every day of the week, because that's what happens these days. If you don't have enough inventory to keep listing new items, you lose that base. So I pick things that I know I can get. Just like, wasting time to price or pick out one single item that you'll get one single buyer might be impractical, as opposed to learning cheaper items that you can get all the time that you've got tons of buyers for. I would rather be able to sell a whole bunch of cheaper items than only one moderately okay item. I mean, it just makes more sense. Volume is the key to this for us. If I can list 60 items in an hour, I'm going to sell some of those probably before the even hour's up, usually, because usually we do 2 to 3, even 5%. There's some categories that I list items in. I might sell 15% of those items right after I list them. and that's another plus. So that's something you figure out. You figure out what sells the quickest for you. Certain collectibles we list are like super obscure items to most people, but I know the minute I list them, they're going to be gone super super quick, just because they are obscure and most people won't be looking for them other than this small couple group of people that are out there, and I know who they are, I guess is the point for certain items. I'm going to stop ranting and raving here. We're going to let it go at that. I know I've got a bunch that I didn't get through. I'm terrible on that. One last time, if you're enjoying the conversation, please slam the thumbs up. I've got 183 people in house, 111 thumbs up. I just put a video up earlier for Patreons. So that's up. You'll have the last part to that series for Patreon up this weekend. I promise it'll be up first Sunday, so I'm not going to, you'll still get your 2+ videos. YouTube membership video will be up this weekend as well, so those will be back on course. I do have a video scheduled for tomorrow. It's not quite done, but I should be able to get it done. We are on the road to look for another dog tomorrow. It's got to get along with our other rescue dog, so that's the concern here. So meet and greet and all that kind of stuff. It's a long, drawn-out process, and it's a depressing process too, because some of the dogs I'd love to take home, but I couldn't emotionally or handle losing something you get attached to, and they're just adorable dogs. But I don't want a senior dog. I want something we'll have around for a while again. But anyway, I'll let you all go. I appreciate everybody coming on. If you enjoyed the conversation one last time, please slam that thumbs up, and I hope you all have a good evening.